Hey guys, how are you doing? Luna here with a new video for the channel. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. Basically, what we're going to do today is facing off two bands against each other to see who's the best one. And the two bands I've picked for this video is Coldplay vs Radiohead. The reason why should be pretty much obvious. You know, this comparisons between Coldplay and Radiohead have been going for longer than my existence. Ever since Coldplay released Parachutes, there were claimed that the track High Speed was basically a Radiohead ripoff, and they were right. I know that Coldplay and Radiohead are two completely different bands. It's not easy to compare them. I think we can do a pretty good job deciding which band is better. But even though I'll try to be as unbiased as possible in this video, remember that this is only my personal point of view. If you have your own, and I'm pretty sure you do, leave it down below in the comments so everyone can see it, even myself. Already, with that being said, I think it's time for us to start with the video. Performance-wise, I think, the answer is quite obvious. Even though Chris Martin has a beautiful voice and a voice that maybe is better to please or reach a bigger audience, it is true that Thom Yorke's ability, creativity, and just passion when performing always, never ceases to amaze me. Not only in terms of, technical ability to sing, but also his ability to adapt to all the different styles that Radiohead has adopted through the years. Remember that, Radiohead is not only an alternative rock band. They have gone through many different genres, going from chamber pop to folk music to electronic music to ambient music, robotic music, jazz music, in some tunes in Amnesiac. Radiohead has done basically everything, and Thom Yorke's performance is always on point, never a miss. He is an amazing singer, but also a really creative one when it comes to, adapting his voice to a different genre. So that's the reason why, in my opinion, performance-wise, Radiohead takes the crown here. And from the technical point of view, Chris Martin isn't that much of a great singer. He actually, it's pretty obvious when you look at the live performances that he struggles to hit some notes that are not really that high, while Thom Yorke sometimes sounds even better while performing live. So in my opinion, even though Chris is an amazing performer, and I do believe that in concert he can be a better frontman. When talking about diversity, adaptability, and talent overall as a singer, I think that Thom Yorke takes the crown here. As for the rest of the band, I think it's quite hard to come up with an answer, because Radiohead, ever since Kid A and OK Computer, stopped being a band in the most traditional way of thinking. So at the end, I think that if you want to compare, the performance of both bands, what you really need to look at is the vocalist, and in that case, Thom Yorke is the winner. In terms of popularity, it kind of depends on when, where you want to focus. Probably in the US, Coldplay is as big as Radiohead, and, vice versa. But if you, zoom out and go to the entire globe, every single continent in the world, Coldplay shits on Radiohead. It's hard, I live in South America, in a country that's not so big, and it's hard for me to find someone that actually knows Radiohead. They probably know the songs, but they don't know the name. They don't really know more than one or two songs that are probably Creep and Fake Plastic Trees. Instead, here in Latin America, everyone knows Coldplay. Everyone knows a handful of their songs. Coldplay is going to be everywhere, basically. They're one of the most popular bands of all time. And it's not, it shouldn't be a surprise. Coldplay has some sort of tradition of releasing one massive 1 billion views hit for every album they release. In Parachutes, it was Yellow. In A Rush of Blood to the Head, it was The Scientist. In X and Y, it was Fix You. In Viva La Vida, it was title track. In Milo Salto, it was Paradise. In Ghost Stories, it was The Sky Full of Stars. In Handful of Dreams, it was Him for the Weekend. As I said before, I think that Chris Martin's performance and the overall genre that Coldplay usually toils in allows the band to be more accessible in every part of the world. As for Radiohead's usual production and songwriting decisions make them, harder to reach certain audiences. Because let's be honest here, a lot of the people that know Coldplay outside of the UK, the US, or any English-speaking country know only the singles, and that's it, maybe a few more songs that are popular on YouTube, but they don't really know the albums. But still, that's way more than just knowing two songs from Radiohead 90s music. So I think that in popularity, it's pretty much obvious that the winner is Coldplay. Now, song catalog wise, I think again we have a clear winner. As much as a Coldplay fan I am, I must admit that the lower half of Coldplay's song catalog is quite difficult. Not bad songs, really, not bad songs in some cases, but I must admit that it's pretty forgettable and not as memorable as the top 20 or the top 30. Another thing that I can point out about Coldplay's catalog is that it can be described in two different genres, which is pop music and rock music. Sometimes a fusion between the two, sometimes acoustic tracks as well, but again falling into the same formula as a typical Coldplay pop ballad that we've been listening to ever since A Rush of Blood to the Head. Instead, with Radiohead, I don't really have enough time in this video. YouTube's format doesn't allow me to upload a video so long that I get to describe every single genre that Radiohead has adopted into their sound. So not only do you have a better quality overall in the tracks, but also you have a massive amount of variety, and that alone is enough to give this point to Radiohead. Again, I think that if you were to match the popularity and the overall enjoyability of both catalogs, it will pretty much be a tie. But considering many different things, for example, the innovation, the originality, the production, the performance, the overall songwriting expertise in Radiohead's catalog, I think that you have to admit that Radiohead's catalog is way better. Last but not least, actually the most important thing, no matter the band, no matter the artist, is the discography. And for this one, I think again we have a clear winner. Before the release of Music of the Spheres, I am willing to say, and I still hold to this day, that Coldplay has not released a bad album. They are all pretty solid, and at best they're one of the best alternative rock albums released in their respective years. A Rush of Blood to the Head is an amazing album, one of my favorite albums from the 2000s. Viva La Vida is also a great album. Everyday Life is an album that I really enjoy. But those three albums that serve that, as my favorite Coldplay albums are not even near the level of quality, influence, and importance as albums like OK Computer, Kid A, and In Rainbows. And again, something that happened with the song catalog is that you have a massive amount of variety, not only in the different albums, but also inside the albums. When Coldplay releases an album, you can basically tell how the album would sound only by listening to the first track. Instead, with Radiohead, that unpredictability remains through the whole listen, and it's something that you really enjoy because you may have an alternative rock opener, but then it turns to be a more electric and robotic sound like it happened in OK Computer. You may have some ambient music and experimental rock music at the beginning of the album Amnesiac, but then it changes to some sort of weird mix between digital music and jazz. The same thing with Radiohead's latest album, A Moonshaped Pool. You may listen to the first track of this album and think that Radiohead was going back to this alternative rock sound that made them popular, but then it quickly changes to this sleepy, dreamy production, beautiful dream pop, chamber pop, and folk music that make the album such a beautiful and enjoyable experience. I believe that even albums that are not as impressive like Pablo Honey and The King of Limbs are still solid listens. So even though again I can say that Coldplay has a pretty solid discography, and one that I really enjoy, starting from Parachutes to Everyday Life, I think that there's not a single bad album, not even anything near to a bad album. But when compared to one of the most prolific and well-crafted discographies of rock history, it's kind of hard to get the point. So I'm gonna give this one to Radiohead as well. I don't want to be pretentious, but I think it was really obvious that Radiohead was going to be victorious by the end of this video. It's just, two bands that have completely different approaches to music. Radiohead is constantly trying to evolve, do new things, trying to, make a different sound for themselves, trying to improve their production, their performance, the overall songwriting expertise, while Coldplay is just trying to make music that people enjoy, and that's it. They're totally different bands, and comparing them is kind of, hard in that sense, because you have to say things like Radiohead is more creative or more talented than Coldplay, when probably, that isn't the case. It's just that Chris Martin doesn't really bother to make complex music or music that wouldn't appeal to such a massive audience. But, generally speaking, I'm pretty sure that everyone can agree that Radiohead's career has been way more prolific and artsy and, better.
I'm better! I am better!
Then Coldplay's. I don't think anyone will get pissed at that. Again, I think that Coldplay is just doing great. I don't really have a problem with the way Coldplay carries out their music. I wouldn't really know if I would like a complex Chris Martin. I think there's just two different bands. But out of the two, if I have to, live without one, I think I'll go for Coldplay. So Radiohead takes the win. It's 3-1. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, go ahead and leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any other videos that I upload. I want to know your opinion on this topic. Which band do you think is better? Is it Radiohead? Is it Coldplay? Leave it down below along with your reasons. With that being said, guys, once again, I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope I can see you guys soon with a new video. But until then, bye.